What's going on?
Not much. I'm glad to join you in our next episode of Two Guys Talking Toys.
We're going to be in trouble. We ever have to rebrand this thing.
What would we have rebranded as?
No idea. If any of us ever like get hit with mutagen and turn into strange mutant creatures, would it just be two mutants talking about toys?
Or one guy and that thing?
Yeah. It would be us and the guy from Goonies.
Sloth.
Sloth. Who was Chunk?
Chunk was the kid.
Isn't there a character that exists? Maybe I'm thinking of a totally different franchise whose name is Chonk, like Chonk.
Oh,
I have no clue. I'm just...
What was the name of Warburton's character in the Emperor's New Groove?
Oh, was that Crunk?
Crunk, Chunk, something like that. I don't know.
Two Crunks talking toys. Which is way more entertaining than our rival podcast, Two Gastons Talking Toys.
Right. That would be. Wait, now you got me confused. Yes, Sloth was the big guy, right? And Chunk was the kid?
No clue.
Yeah, now you got me confused.
Rabbit holed us, and they don't even know what the topic of today's episode is.
Right.
We're downhill fast.
It went really quickly downhill. And we're showing our age. How do we not know Goonies characters? But it's one of those things like something like and then when you have to actually recall it, you doubt yourself when you reach
and then
a
it's
certain
gone.
Age. Yeah, and then
we lost.
Once you doubt yourself, forget about it. You're gone.
All right, well, we'll steer this back into the railings. We're not quite back on track, but we're into the railing part of the chase scene right now. You got anything? You got anything new this week?
I did. I got new Attorney of
Webster.
Oh,
he's so good.
And I don't think the camera is going to do it any justice, but this metallic purple, it's like a shiny metallic. I don't know if the camera's picking it up really well, but
yeah, like it's almost pearlescent.
Yeah. And his eyes, they're like little translucent pieces of plastic in there.
They look. It's
really good.
So well done. Have you placed him with the Origins web store yet?
No, I haven't. I just opened him a little bit ago. But let me show you what's pretty neato mosquito about him. So he's got his grappling hook gun, right? So the grappling hooks things are jointed, like they move. And so here's the apparatus, his gun. And you could take the handle off, and you could take the grappling hook off, and you put the handle in the line, and now you've got where he can hold on to that. Like he can grapple it, and this goes in his hand, so he can be holding on. And then also, if you look at this handle, it's got a hole.
It's got the little ring. So you
could put a line through there and have him.
You know what? That's such a great, because they can't do or they don't want to do the original play feature with it. But that's a cool like kind of throwback to it.
Right, and I'm not done. His back piece, yes, it's not sold in any store. I don't know if you can see it, but you can also run a line through there. See, there's a hole.
It's so good, so well done.
You can put a line through there, and he could go that way.
That's so great. I love that they went through the effort of including that and did not make it a point to tell the fandom that they had been playing with the original toy wrong and they misremembered what the original action feature was. Guess who said that?
I vaguely remember a friend of mine saying that on a podcast.
This person went on all the forums and was like, no, the play feature that you're all talking about, that just didn't exist. What a silly person.
When everybody says, I had the Boba Fett that shot the rocket. No, you didn't.
No,
that was a prototype. You did not.
So that is awesome. Has he called you Mr. Papadakis yet?
I was thinking about Emmanuel Lewis when I was opening him. That's so funny.
I was going to try and put the song out there, but I don't remember the actual opening words. We all remember the theme, but I don't recall the actual.
Right. And it's funny because I remember all of those different strokes, facts of life. Like I could sing them all.
Oh, because they had like actual jingle writers writing those. It was like their job to make those earworms that stay in your mind.
Yeah, but
I
can't remember the Webster one.
but it all, I feel like it all hit rock bottom when Lost came out.
Right, and when I can't remember the difference between sloth and chunk, it's all over. You know, there's no recall.
That is an awesome get. The new web store is fantastic. The Masterverse line, really, I love how much it's come into its own, because I didn't think anything else would come close to classics.
Yeah, it really did. They really have been knocking it out of the park. Did you get anything new?
I did, and we're gonna find out
All right
what we've got going on this week.
I feel like you should start asking the postal workers to wrap it in Christmas paper. We're getting close to that point.
That's true. It's almost it's almost that time. I love the Christmas season. I love celebrating the Christmas season at the appropriate time. I'm a curmudgeon even about the things I love. Let Thanksgiving happen, people. Like when Halloween is over, and I love Halloween too, there's a great holiday that comes right after it where the entire gimmick is eating all the things you want to eat, and then eat some more. And then we all sit around and be sad about how much we just ate and constantly think about what we're going to eat next. Let Thanksgiving happen. And then as soon as you're done, as soon as the tryptophan starts to wear off, it's Christmas time. Now it's Christmas time. So let's Christmas it up with some sectors.
Nice. So I thought you were going to say something else there for a second. Wow.
So these are, okay, so I know that by now, people who have been listening to more than 3 episodes of this show have heard me gripe about the new sectors that Nacelle is doing. And despite my griping, despite all my rage, I am still buying those Nacelle sectors. But these are, I actually kind of already have a set that I purchased from another seller on eBay. But these are what I imagine are probably factory reject samples. And I've always been fascinated by these. I've always loved.
Does he have a busted antenna? Or is it just bent back?
They're bent. Yeah, it's bent back. That was my initial worry, that these would just snap right off, especially if these were from somebody overseas who works in the factory and has access to eBay and probably a vat full of rejected figures and whatever. But I'm always amazed. I'm always fascinated by getting my hands on these, because sometimes weird things go wrong, or you'll get, like, they made it a point to really focus on, especially for Stellara. She's got kind of like it's probably not coming across on the camera as well as I would like, kind of a bluish, purplish sheen to her, which is really cool. But I imagine that took a lot of practicing, a lot of trial and error for them to get it right in the back and forth between the factory and whatever. So sometimes that goes wrong, or sometimes they'll use like a totally different color, or weird things will happen, like Brown Beast Man from Masterverse. Right. Sometimes those will actually like make it out of the factory in a first wave, while I gotta presume something like the plastic is changing in the machine, or there's some residual and it's like they crank out a first batch that doesn't look quite right. So when I order stuff like this, aside from just having absolutely no patience, and I need it now, I like seeing any sort of weird, like off-model, possible mistakes, possible production errors that will then be fixed later. But having and these look pretty official. I think the only
that's why you like hanging out with me. My mom said I was a mistake.
Yeah, I mean, well, if you were like the earlier model, and you've got some younger siblings, you were like the prototype, and I find prototypes fascinating. We have to do an episode on those, because I love them. I love things in like weird prototypey colors, where they're just working the plastic through the machine to try and get stuff out. But yeah, so I've got these. I've got some issues with them. The adherence to the original design, that's fine, but I'm still stuck on those Zika figures. I love the way that those took the original designs and updated them accordingly. I think we mentioned them real quick before. There's a surprise waist joint on Dargon there. That's not too bad.
I'm looking at those things and I'm not impressed. I have the originals and I like them better. I like the coloring better. I like everything about them better.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where my issue with these lie. It is cool that they took these and they added a little bit more articulation to them, but it's like it's not enough. Like, it's just not quite enough, and it's a little bit too sticking with the things that could have been changed, maybe updated and improved upon in the original design. The bubble shoulders, the kind of the bubble thighs, the weird just band for the belt. Like, smooth that out. Give him finish up his abs. I get why that's that. I get what they were going for.
That's why you
I'm
don't
just
wear.
not.
That's why you don't wear a belt, because you want everybody to see your finished abs, right?
Yeah, yeah. Don't hide those. Don't show those off. Stellaris not showing. She's not hiding them. She's got some great abs.
She's got some pretty impressive back muscles too.
Yeah, but on this, no waist cut, which is unfortunate. But yeah, like,
just a belt.
Nope, no belt. Oh, you know what? That's one of the other quirks to ordering these from a shisty, shady seller overseas. You may not get all your accessories. The one that I have on order coming to me will have her belt and whatnot, though.
That's why I don't do mail away brides. They're not going to come with their accessories.
They might be incomplete. Their heads may not be screwed on properly.
They might have busted antennas.
They might come with like an orange arm and a green leg. You never know, because they may have been flushing out the plastic before they pumped them out properly. These are the things we need to be concerned with as toy collectors.
Yeah.
So, because there's absolutely no way to properly transition from that to the actual topic.
Oh,
today's
that's exciting.
It's going to be. Now, what we all, I think most people over the course of their life have had with them like an animal or like a trusted companion that they might call a trusty steed. If you do, you're a very strange person. Don't call your friends your steeds. But if you have like a cat or a horse, you grew up with a pony or something, you may have what's called a steed. And I've always been fascinated by as a collector, as a person that grew up in loving like those old school series and shows. Your main character, who is cool and does all the heroic stuff or possibly evil stuff, but then they've got with them at all times their companion or their steed, or they're usually in the form of an animal. Because if it's not an animal, it's a person that should probably be considered your buddy or your friend or your associate.
Did you just watch Hidalgo? Is that where this came from?
I have not. What is this?
What? You've never seen Hidalgo? Oh,
no,
watch it. It's a journey of a man, and it's what's his name? Viggo Mortensen, doing a vast desert race with his horse. It's a great story. The horse steals the show.
Well, it's funny you bring that up, because I guess that's kind of my fascination with steeds, where sometimes they will outshine their human counterpart, or their main character counterpart. As far this is the kind of thing that's been going on for ever, as far as, I don't know, Roman and Greek gods, like they had steeds.
Right. Odin's horse, the multi-legged.
Yeah, Odin's horse, the Pegasus, the hippocampus.
Right.
Everyone's got like that kind of like really cool. You remember the steed, and I think that's one of the things that makes it distinctive from just a random, side creature or like an accessory or whatever.
Right, because they're like a partner. They're like a partner.
Yeah, like we'll do like super duper base as a starter. Lone Ranger. Lone Ranger in silver. Like that's immediately who comes to mind. And if you see one, the other one's got to be there. And I think that makes for a really cool kind of collecting experience, because you get, like, if you're going to get the Lone Ranger figure, and there's been a ton, and I have no clue who made like the first one, but
I had the 1980 the 4-inch ones. We used to use them when the Indiana Jones 4-inch figures came out, right?
Yeah.
Gabriel, the toy company, did the Lone Ranger and Tonto, and they did Zorro. And they had the horses too. So Lone Ranger had Silver, Tonto had Scout, and Zorro had Tornado.
Yeah,
that was the name of their mounts, and they made them, and they were cool. And the coolest thing is you'd have them. The horses were always cool. Like they would jump over Jeeps. Like when you had Silver and Lone Ranger on them, they'd jump. It was like medieval Knievel, right? They're jumping over everything on horseback. But I loved that line, and
Mhm.
I still have them. And then
Mhm.
there was, and then at that same time, the same company, I believe, Gabriel did Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid figures when the movie
Mhm.
came out with Paul Newman and Robert Redford,
Yeah.
and that was the same type of figures. And then they did like Buffalo Bill Cody, like there were a bunch of those cowboy figures. And the
Mhm.
coolest thing about getting them were the horses.
Yeah. Yeah, because without those, you kind of don't. You literally can't have the same play pattern that you would normally have. Like
No,
you could do like the side missions. The Lone Ranger needed to like go into the saloon, then you could have
right,
him go and do that. But for the main, when you're thinking like action and play and how I'm going to display them on the shelf, you need silver, or like you said,
yeah,
like with Tonto, you need scout. They're not. They will seem incomplete without that other
right.
character with them. Which is kind of a cool thing, and not a lot of. I know sometimes toy lines will go for that, and they don't quite get there, or maybe the toy line that they're or the cartoon that they're based on doesn't require that. Like let's see, say like
Uh,
Thundar.
oh yeah,
Even though Thundar only had the toy line that had just the three of them that were released,
right.
I remember them riding mounts,
All
but
the
I
time,
don't.
all the
Yeah,
time. And Ukla had that weird like space alien looking one.
yeah, but I don't remember like the mounts names. I
No,
don't. They don't share. I feel like they don't share that same bond, or maybe they did, and I just don't remember it from the
no,
series.
I know I've watched it a bunch of times and they don't, and it's weird
Mhm.
because I mean it's essentially, much like Star Wars, it's a Western
Mhm.
story. He rides around the countryside righting the wrongs of the
Yeah.
world, right? And that's, and even that sort of Lone Ranger kind of story was taken from the Knight Errants, who
Mhm.
was taken from the Ronins, that whole storyline repeats, but it is essentially a Western, and those three mounts
Mhm.
are integral in that storyline
Yeah.
of Thundar the Barbarian. I remember being really excited. The first, steed or mount I remember getting from Toyline, I
Mhm.
think was the Tauntaun in Star Wars.
Oh yeah. See, and that's kind of funny because that really hits that middle ground where I remember watching him die in the cold, and I mean, like, oh,
Yeah,
that's too bad. Like, I wanted to know more about that creature, and Luke only rides him for a little bit,
no, yeah, and
but there's a lot more impact.
they made the original one, and then they
Uh
made the one with the belly that you could stick the figure in the belly.
huh.
But I remember getting Tauntaun and excited, but the riding animal that we really wanted in that first was the dewback from Star
Yes,
Wars. That was the one that was hard to come by when you were a kid. You
those
couldn't get the
those
dewback
were.
was the coolest because he was
Mhm.
reptilian.
I wanted I wanted anything that had to do with some sort of like mounted creature. Which I guess kind of brings us to He-Man, because you can't get away from He-Man and Battlecat. So
Battlecat and
whenever you
Stridor.
yeah, like whenever you say He-Man, you almost automatically attach He-Man and
Yeah,
Battlecat.
it's like
Uh,
Han Solo and Chewbacca. Like it's
yeah,
it's just a pair. Mork and Mindy. It's the same thing.
does does
Not really the
Chewbacca
same kind of relationship, but
does does Chewbacca count as a steed?
no, no, no. He's a buddy. He's a buddy. That's his
he's
best friend.
he's kind of the Mog. He's
Yeah.
part man, half dog.
Mhm.
Uh,
Like I'm the Chewbacca to your Han Solo.
See, I feel like they would be switched. Like you're a lot more smooth about things than I am, and when I get angry, I just rip things out of the control panel.
Yeah, but I like to have my beard scratched.
You'll be wintertime, Han. You'll be Han on the frozen planet after he's been there for a
All
little
right,
while.
cool. Yeah, yeah, that works.
Also,
Um,
does this mean that you won't show up for like a future Two Guys Talking Toys unless you die in it?
but then I'll be blue and glowy. It'll be fine. Not that they were Jedi, but I would want to come back like that. So we derailed again. Okay, so He-Man, yes.
Yeah, so He-Man and Battlecat, and I like that and we're gonna throw back once more to Toys That Made Us. Go and watch that show, because a lot of the information that
Yeah,
we
and
are
I'm glad you keep
discussing
calling
comes
back.
from that.
They're gonna
Um,
sue us.
but they should do the opposite of suing us.
Yes, they should thank us.
They should thank us and give us money, and bring me on board so I can complain about what they're doing with Sectors, because they're the
Right.
same people that are making these toys. Yeah, that'll get me on board. This guy
Mhm.
complaining about our stuff.
Right.
With He-Man, I like that when they first were kind of cobbling the idea together, the immediate thought was, okay, we've got this roaming barbarian guy. He needs a mount. Like
Yeah.
just right off the bat, he needs a some sort of companion creature thing, something. And I guess they kind of didn't really care what it was. Him turning out to be a giant cat because that's what they had in the catalog was kind of cool. But I love that in the time that He-Man has existed, Battlecat has become his own character.
Yes.
You can separate, and I kind of wish they would have done that more in the original series to have He-Man based adventures, and then every now and then just have a Battlecat adventure. Even if he's
Yeah.
like he's separated from He-Man on the battlefield, I don't think they need to be within close proximity for him to retain the power. So if they're fighting somewhere and Battlecat gets separated or He-Man gets knocked off, and because we've always seen when He-Man's
We saw
handling someone.
Cringer in the original cartoon. Like I think Cringer and Orko one time had
Mhm.
something they had to do, but it was Cringer
Yeah,
because He-Man wasn't around to
yeah.
transform him.
And that would be kind of an interesting twist to the story if like Battlecat's off somewhere doing something and He-Man's handling whatever he needs to handle, and the battle's over for him.
Right.
And he's like,
Well,
"Oh, I'll be right back," and he runs off. And Battlecat's still dealing with whatever he's dealing with, and the power returns, and now he's Cringer in the middle of fighting a clan of Panthers or something weird like that. That would be neat.
a bunch of cats is a clouder. It wouldn't be a clan, it'd be a clouder.
Oh, it'd be a cloud with
Or
Panthers.
pride, maybe, or pride.
Depending on if he's fighting evil lions.
Yeah.
But those were always really cool. Or Panther,
Mhm.
who I'm
Really
convinced
didn't have a personality in the original at all.
not really. It was very much more just a cat.
More
As
feral.
opposed
He was
to
feral. Cringer
Yeah.
was domesticated.
yeah.
You do bring up a good point with, and you know what I always felt bad? He-Man had Battlecat, and
Mhm.
She-Ra had what? Swiftwind, right?
Swiftwind.
Yeah.
Very proper. The proper
Right.
horse, because that's what girls want. They want proper British people to drink tea with.
Indeed, yeah. But you're right about that sort of barbarian thing. So we had thanks, like I said, we had like eras of different figures that we used, my
Mhm.
brothers and I, at any time. And usually my older brother Derek was the one who was the catalyst of something new happening.
Mhm.
And he introduced into the homestead Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes.
And boy, did they have some cool steeds. Like Strongheart had the dragon. He had the golden dragon that, and I loved it. They had the trapdoor, that classic like trapdoor with the legs, but then they had their legs painted on the saddle, so it looked like they were straddling, right?
That's smart.
Right.
It doesn't mess with the integrity of the original Steed figure, and if from afar, he's clearly riding that dragon.
Yeah, and so he had the dragon, and he had the warhorse, the
Mhm.
Destier one.
Yeah.
But the coolest one was Warduke's horse, whose name was Nightmare. Like, how cool! And it had it was gaunt and had bones, and
Yeah.
and it had the flames on the hoof.
Mhm.
That mount was the coolest thing I had ever seen at the time when my brother got Nightmare for Warduke and Nightmare. Like you hear Strongheart and Destier coming, you're like, that's cool.
We'll handle it.
But Nightmare, like Warduke is coming and he's riding a Nightmare. Like who's not gonna run from that?
That's when you start evacuating the village. They're like, look, they're coming. They're like a horde of army ants. We just need the best. Our best option is to leave. Wait for this to blow over.
Take what he wants. Take what he wants. And
he's the most bored member of that cabal. He shows up. I never fight anybody. It's always empty. Guess
Right.
I'll drink up.
No one wants to fight a guy named Warduke who's riding a Nightmare. It's not gonna happen. But at that same time, we got Crystar.
Yes.
And we had the Crystal Dragon and the Lava Dragon, which were very cool. Very cool. So they sort of broke down this way. My younger brother would always find the most unique line of toys to throw into whatever time frame or genre we were playing with. So my older brother kind of leaned into Dungeons and Dragons pretty hard because he played a lot.
Oh, okay.
And then I had the Crystar line that was compatible. And then my younger brother Dale found the Arco Other World. Do you remember them? They were kind of bendy. You should look at them because they had glow in the dark swords.
I don't remember those.
Yeah, they were bendy. You should look them up. They're very cool.
Mhm.
And they were inexpensive. And some of them would come in big sets, but
Mhm.
they had the most amazing steeds. They had
Mhm.
two-headed dragons with a saddle on them that they could go on. They had this like minotaur that was like half horse, half Chewbacca. Like he was like this big hairy guy. I think his name is Eurus or something like that. It was cool. And then they had this like phoenix looking thing that almost had like a dinosaur head. One guy that you would like, he was made of rubber and he was like a giant frog that stood up, but he had like a beak and that looked like a fish.
Oh,
And
weird.
he was called Frogacuda or something like that.
That's hilarious.
That's right up your alley. You should really look up this line, The Other World from Arco. And they had other like shelled, like almost ankylosaurus like animals that they could sit on. But when you pull them back, they had that release action. You pull them back and then
that's cool.
There were a lot of cool things that they were doing.
Yeah.
And they were inexpensive and you could still find them in pretty good shape. And then also another brand that I found that had cool steeds was the Dragon Riders of the Styx.
Do not recall those either. When did those come out?
I don't know, 80, 82, somewhere right around there. They had a Black Knight and some barbarians and a lot of wizards. And they were awesome. They were awesome. And again, had cool like action animals that you'd pull back and let them rip. I forget who made them, but they were awesome. You should check out The Other World and Dragon Riders of the Styx. I have some out there. Dragon Man was my favorite from the Dragon Riders of the Styx. You'd love it.
Oh, that sounds awesome. So I remember the first real like I guess official dragon style steeds that I remember getting a hold of were from the Knights of Tiranaud. You remember those when those came out in the 90s?
Yeah.
They had
And the dragons were much cooler than the figures.
Yeah, they had them because I couldn't tell you anything about any of the figures because I didn't care. I got the main dragon who was really cool, the red one that came with the wings that had the swords attached to the wings.
Oh, right, I forgot about that.
Those were really cool. And then they wound up years later, and I didn't know this until I stumbled across them on eBay. Power Rangers, was it Mystic Force? I think it was Mystic Force, reuses those figures, those dragon figures, as recolored, re-released, like just like a toy line fillers. They didn't appear in the show.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they were just because I was recollecting because there's a chunk of my collection that was lost, and I was looking for that. I was also searching for that really cool wyvern through the black and purple dragon that came out that had the two. It was the black portion was the main section of the wyvern, and then you had two smaller, kind of like almost like worm style dragons, and they snapped onto its shoulders, so it was a full like three-headed wyvern style dragon. But it was really cool, and he was the counter to the main dragon. But yeah, I want it, Power Ranger fans, I apologize, I'm not super into all the incarnations, but I want to say it was Mystic Force where they repainted and re-released those. I think in green, and there's one that's more like a cherry red than the original release. And I've always wanted I one day I will get those because they don't go for a whole lot.
No.
But those were
the Power Ranger stuff and the super rare stuff are pretty affordable. Oh, and before we go on, and before Dale gets mad at us again, let's talk about Brave Star.
I wanted to bring up Brave Star.
3030. Yeah, if we don't bring up 3030 again, we're gonna get in trouble.
Because even though I'm not very familiar with Brave Star at all, but I remember the horse because I thought it was really cool that he went from mounted steed to literally standing up and walking around with the
talking techno horse.
Yeah. Ramen Toys is working on. I believe they're working on a Brave Star. I want to say they're also doing 3030. They're calling him something different, of course.
Right, yeah. I think I've seen the Brave Star, not Brave Star. He uses 3 R's at the end instead of just 2. He uses
totally different. Just ask Vanilla Ice. He'll explain the difference to you.
It's like those knockoff Adidas. They've got the same price. You get extra stripe. Um, yeah. I think I've seen him, and he looks pretty cool.
Do you remember? I guess kind of circling back to He-Man real quick. In New Adventures, even and again, I stayed away
Ugh.
from New Adventures, but I vaguely recall there being. I didn't think it until you started mentioning the weird kind of centaur character that was in that other toy line. There's
Right.
a centaur-ish character that's in New Adventures. I remember because there was a toy, and I think the gimmick was that you could he could he could be in like the centaur pose and have like the four legs and the top part is part man, but then he could also kind of stand up like a giant centipede almost, and
Wow.
he just have multiple arms sticking out of his sides. It was an interesting concept. It's just New Adventures was bad, so
Right. Yeah.
you
It was
know.
bad. Worse than bad.
So we have to talk about because I brought I brought them up. Sectors.
Oh, right. Yes, with the puppet.
All, not only giving us
I
Steeds,
wish I knew. I would have
but
brought one in.
mine are packed away, unfortunately. But like giving us a new play feature, because with He-Man or with like Tauntaun, you had just a regular figure. You put one figure on top of the other one and hope he didn't fall off.
Mhm.
And Sectors gave us that. It was just, I guess, like a new level of interaction. Having your hand actually in the puppet, or
Yeah,
having your
it
hand
was
become the
very
legs.
cool.
You could determine whether or not you know it was going to fly whatever guy and grab him with your legs and fly off with them. Or I always liked, and I don't know why, I liked having them just walk around.
Yeah.
Like the wings, I turned the wings off and then just let them crawl around and be
Yeah.
weird and creepy.
For those who don't know, and I know there are people who listen regularly who won't know, but like the Sectors had the coolest idea for riding. It was the hard-bodied thing with the saddle on it. You put the
Mm.
figure in there, and then just underneath the belly, because they were insects, they'd have
Oh.
multiple legs. You slip your hand into a hairy glove, and your fingers would become the legs. Genius, genius.
So good. It was such a good idea, and it was near seamless. You know,
Yeah, it was so good.
if you're
Do you
taking a video
remember
of
what was the name of that? Now I'm thinking we had it when we were kids. It was a
uh
plush tarantula. I don't remember his name. He had like
huh.
googly eyes, and
Mhm.
it had a white glove like sewn on the top of him. And then
Oh,
you would slip your hand into what looked like the glove,
oh, that's right. You could
and
control
then
the legs
and
with
then
it, right?
you were actually in the spider, but it looked like you
Yeah.
had a oh, what was the name of that toy? I think I
Oh,
want to say it was Harry, but
yeah.
that could just be
I
me.
that if it came out in the 80s, you would probably bet money that its name was just Harry,
Yeah.
or like Harry with two R's, or something ridiculous
Right.
like that.
It came out the same time of Grigori Bat. We got them simultaneously. Yeah. Oh, gosh, no, I hadn't thought about that toy in years until just now. It popped in
Yeah,
my head.
yeah. I can honestly say if a toy line comes out and they introduce Steeds to that line, I'm almost instantly more interested in it.
Mhm.
Um, Super Seven is doing that with the I think they call it the Four Worstmen, and it's part of their the worst line. Which if you're
Which is a
looking to
great line. Great
yeah, it's
line.
like if you're looking to grab some the worst figures, which are yeah the name is
Yeah,
ironic. They're actually
their name
really
is
cool looking.
the worst. It's not if you're looking to grab the worst figures,
They're actually
go to
really
Dollar
cool toys.
General and Mhm.
But take a look at Big Bad because their sale is still going on, and they've got a couple of them up for sale for really good pricing. That's going to be gone once the distribution chain corrects itself. Uh,
Right.
but they introduced I guess like a small like subsect of the worst, and they're called the Four Worstmen, and they're aspects of war, famine, whatever. But each one of them has their own. It's like a revamped version of Battlecat. Essentially,
Yeah.
it's Battlecat. They've got battle armor. Uh, like what famine looks like it has like leopard spots, so that's really cool. But the reactions, and
Right.
I'm not collecting the reactions. So Super Seven, if you ever make the Four Worstmen part of your Ultimates line, I'm there. Give
On it.
me Ultimates versions of those mounts because they look really cool, and I'm on board. Give me
Yeah.
those.
You know what? You know what's Steed I always wanted and never have gotten my hands on, and I still am hoping to someday get my hands on it. Black Star had a dragon named Warlock, and
Oh,
the figure of that way ahead of its time. I
mhm,
don't recall ever even seeing it in the store, but it's the Black Star figures were big,
yeah.
and it's green and its head's up almost like Loch Ness monstrous, and has
Mhm,
huge wingspan with
mhm,
ball joints, way ahead of its time. Like the figure itself
mhm.
doesn't have, I don't think the legs were articulated, but the wings were. And man, it is a cool looking beast, and I never had it, and I really really want it.
What I always
I
wanted to
never
get
see
my
it, never see it. I mean, I'm sure I can
no,
find it on eBay or something like
yeah.
that, but like, it's one of those things where I want a nice one. Like, I want to be able to see it.
Mhm.
And I've never actually seen it in person.
Do you remember the Mega Mutants from the Ninja Turtles line that Playmates put out?
Yes, yes.
I want to say it was like towards the end of the line, and I never saw them in stores, but I remember I think one of my cousins had one. It was Killer B, and it was when they were just having the most fun putting as many weird,
Yeah.
strange things into the sculpt because he had like the prison cap on and some random bits of the prison outfit, but also
Yep.
had like the weird, crazy swirling eyes and the gigantic crooked stinger. And I
Yep.
remember
It was
thinking
like
to
a
my
lightning bolt. It looked like the Harry Potter
yeah,
scar. Yeah.
I remember thinking to myself, it'd be really. I was convinced that this was supposed to be Scratch's Steed because
Right.
they
I was
had
thinking
the
that. I was
prison
just
gimmick.
thinking that when you were talking about the prison gimmick. Yeah.
Yeah, and I
And that'd
was
be really weird. A anthropomorphized cat riding on the back of this, like, Picasso-esque bee.
yeah, I always imagined that whatever story it was that Scratch is in prison and Killer B either was his partner in the crime or
Mhm.
was sent by whoever his bosses were to break him out of jail. And he shows up and rips the wall out of the side of the building and they fly off together.
Right.
His counterpart, Needle Nose, not as interesting.
Nope. No, no, no.
I vaguely recall him, yeah, sort of anthropomorphic mosquito. Had I think he had like a crew cut, if I remember correctly, because that was a
Mhm.
little bit weird. Not as cool as Killer B. I would like to
No.
see that come back.
We're talking about these seats, and loyal listeners, whenever Tom and I go out, we at least 2 or 3 times a week talk about how we want to buy Steeds. And we were in we go into like Burlington, and Macy's has the Toys R Us now, and they have these dinosaur lines now. Like, what are they
Oh
called?
yeah,
Robo Dino Robo,
yeah,
and they're fighting, and they've got saddles. And we were yesterday talking about how those would be so cool to be Steeds for these
yes.
guys, these warriors of the Saurozoic, um, which are awesome figures. But like those, they're just the right size. They're just fantastic and not expensive. And if I had just a little bit more space for them, man, I would buy a bunch of those and sit
Yeah. If
every
you
one of these guys on one.
because now even like the smaller companies or the ones that aren't cranking out, yeah, I guess like they're not like a Hasbro or Mattel are making these really cool looking figures like the Mars line, the
Yeah, yeah,
Mars
yeah, yeah.
robots and their mecha dinosaur things that I can't remember the name of the company that made it, but that dragon that we found the other day
Yep,
that had the remote control, but it also had like lights and sound and
yep.
all that fun stuff. So we are coming to the end of our discussion on Steeds. Thank you for indulging me despite my terrible transitions into the topic. Listeners, viewers, thank you for joining us for another episode. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you had fun listening to what we've been discussing and would like to join in, please get a hold of us on our Twitter/X. Our handle is 2guys talking toys. That is the number 2. No G after the talking. Same thing for our Gmail. Like and subscribe if you're enjoying what you're hearing. That helps feed the YouTube algorithm and get us out there. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Enjoy the upcoming holidays. We'll be here with you. Take care, everybody.